5 of the NFL season starts now on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Last week, we didn't have much to look forward to on Thursday Night Football. We had the Cowboys taking on the Giants, and it wasn't the best of games. But this week, we've got the Falcons taking on the Buccaneers, a much better game. Two teams in form, two teams capable of scoring points. Luke Elder, as always, alongside Tom Collins. I'm looking forward to this one, Tom, a lot more than I was looking forward to last week's.
Yeah, this is a much better Thursday night game. First of all, please take a bow for your effort last Thursday, 2 out of 2. I went 1 out of 2, an average day for me. But again, another successful one for you. You've really found your form early in the NFL season. And yeah, this game is a lot better. I don't know necessarily what's going to happen in the matchup, I have to admit. We kind of had this interchange on WhatsApp. I asked you what you thought the spread would be going into this game, and you thought the Bucs would be favourite. And I wasn't overly surprised you said that, which is why I asked in the first place. But the Falcons opened up as 2.5 point favourites on the handicap, and that was just really interesting to me. I thought it'd be a pick'em. They have now reduced the spread down to 1.5 points for the Falcons being favourites, but tricky game.
Yeah, 1.5 point favourites for Falcons. The over-under is 43.5 on total points. And obviously Falcons 4-5 favourite at the moment. One thing just to touch back on last week, now throughout the season, Tom, we have both been disappointed and annoyed by Daniel Jones. So 1-1.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I thought it'd be a massive part of the game plan. Obviously, after CeeDee Lamb scored his touchdown, the pressure was kind of off me, and you were obviously going to succeed later in the evening with your player props. So it was all basically on Daniel Jones, and I think he ran the ball like 4 times for 3 yards or something ridiculous like that. There was never really any hope there, but it was a bit of a long shot play anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a much, much bigger price. But unfortunately, 3 out of 4 last week on Thursday Night Football. Hopefully, 4 out of 4 this week. We've kind of got the same kind of idea as well. We're both taking star receivers in player props and along those lines, but we're going for different sides. I'll let you go first, Tom. You are looking at the side of the Atlanta Falcons.
I am, yeah. As I say, I think this game's going to be really difficult to call. It's going to be a tight matchup, and I didn't know which way to go with it. A lot's going to rely on whether the Falcons can get pressure on Baker Mayfield. We've seen that if you allow Baker plenty of time, then he can just dice open defenses. And the participation of Atlanta's running back Bijan Robinson, who seems to be dealing with a hamstring injury, and last week had his carries very much cut. Tyler Algier was actually more potent last Sunday. So those are the two main factors here, which is why I didn't want to play the over-under or whichever team's going to win this, money line or on the spread. So I thought we'd stick with the player prop. The guy I'm going with is Drake London. His target share has dramatically increased since the start of the season. Week 1, he had 3 targets, a pretty poor start for a guy that many people would have drafted in their fantasy leagues, thinking he was going to be a standout wide receiver this year. In week 2, 7 targets. Week 3, 9 targets. Last week, 12 targets. He's on a steady increase. And with Bijan Robinson's participation likely to be reduced, I think Drake London's going to be the guy they go to. Now, the issue with Drake is that he doesn't find himself in the end zone very often. He's not scored a touchdown this year. Last year, he didn't score too many touchdowns either. And albeit he is quite a tasty price in the anytime touchdown market, 8-5, I'd rather stick with the safer plays, which are receiving yards and receptions. So I'm going to back Drake London overs in both of those categories. The receiving yard line is 61.5. I like that quite a bit. That's at 10-11. Receptions is 5.5. That's again at 10-11. So we need 62 yards and 6 receptions to win on both of these bets. Most interestingly, last year, actually in Drake London's career, he's played the Bucs 4 times. He's averaged 6.5 receptions in games against them, which would tick the over if he just matched that. And he's averaged 95 yards per game against the Bucs as well. And if you looked at last week and previous weeks this season, the Bucs are easy to pass on. So I like Drake London a lot this week, Luke.
Yeah, I like that. Look, Drake London, I think he's set for a breakout game. It just needs to happen for him. I find the Atlanta offense confusing to start with. I mean, they looked dreadful in week 1, but we now know that they were against a fairly good defense. They've looked middling since. I hope Drake London can take that step forward because he was drafted as if he was going to be a real wide receiver 1. Not quite happened for him yet, but I'm going to look on the other side and at a wide receiver 2, who at the moment in fantasy football is putting up wide receiver 1 numbers, because Chris Godwin has had just the most phenomenal start to the year. He has basically shined in every single game so far. The coaching staff, they did say before the season started that he's going straight back in the slot. That's where he got the majority of his fortune in the early part of his career. Obviously, he had a bad injury. I think he tore his ACL a couple of years ago. Took him a little while to get back into things. But the Falcons, they rate as the worst ranked slot secondary in the league. Chris Godwin's one of the better slot receivers in the league, full stop. That's a horrible matchup for the Falcons. Great matchup for Chris Godwin. In the week just gone by, the Philadelphia Eagles, who the Falcons took on, they were ranked as the worst slot secondary. They were 24-0 up, so Chris Godwin wasn't exactly needed. However, he's been used an absolute ton so far. He's consistently getting targets, 8 targets, 8 targets, 9 targets, and 9 targets in the 4 games so far. I will absolutely take that. The over-under is 64.5 yards. It might just move to 65.5. I'll check that in 2 seconds. But I think he'll absolutely smash that line regardless. He's getting, as I say, an absolute ton of work at the moment. There is a slight question mark as well about whether Mike Evans is going to be good to go, because he's dealing with an injury at the moment. So we'll see regards to Mike Evans. But look, Chris Godwin managed 69 yards against Philadelphia last week. They were 24-0 up, as I say. He wasn't needed late on in the day. And he's covered this line as well in 3 or 4 games so far this year. Another thing he's done in 3 or 4 games is scored a touchdown. I think he can do that again this week. So I'm going to take him anytime touchdown, 17-10. I like that price. He's got 4 red zone targets this season, catching all 4 of them. He's 1 red zone target behind Mike Evans, who's caught 3 of his 5. I do think Chris Godwin could be the guy that Baker Mayfield tries to go to in this game. And we've seen that so far this year. When Baker Mayfield really tries to go for Chris Godwin, he absolutely goes for him. When you talk about the Falcons, they've conceded 3 touchdowns through the air. Devonta Smith, slot receiver. Rashee Rice, not quite. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, again, slot receiver. So that bodes well for Chris Godwin. I like him this week. If you've got him in fantasy, then great job. Well drafted. He's been your best draft pick so far. But Chris Godwin over 65.5, and Chris Godwin anytime touchdown. That's 5-6 and 17-10. Just load up Chris Godwin.
Yeah, I mean, this week, it feels very different to our usual Thursday Night Football. We kind of have our bets sporadically placed around the game. This week, we're both going similar kind of tact, different players, of course. But if Drake London and Chris Godwin have big games, then we should be 4 out of 4.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, last week, looking back at it, I went for Rico Dowdle and Jake Ferguson. You were trying to find a little bit of value. They both luckily managed to land. I feel like this week, Tom, we've got 2 players that we genuinely really like each.
Yeah, exactly. Normally, it's very much a case of, is that line too low, too high? Is this guy going to get in the end zone because this team it's a one-sided matchup and the team's much better? This week, it's literally, we just like this guy and we're going to play as much as we can on these 2 props, and hopefully we can cash in. I'm pretty confident, especially given the form you're in at the moment.
Yeah, I'm going okay. I'm just going to forget horse racing. Horse racing sucks. It's rubbish. Just get rid of it. It's too hard.
And until this week when we find the winner of the Cornwall Turf Mile, right?
Yeah, obviously we are going to find the winner. So if you are watching this, do subscribe. Make sure you are with us, because we are going to find the winner of the Cornwall Turf Mile in our horse racing video. And we'll have a Sunday video, of course, this week. By the way, 188 subscribers, Tom.
I know. Thank you very much for everyone subscribing. It's fantastic. I think we only had 100 2 weeks ago, or even less than that. So yeah, it's been great. Thank you very much for everyone liking, commenting, subscribing. We love the comments, by the way. So if you are watching this and you've got to this point of the video, please tell us who you like in Thursday Night Football, whether it's just the Falcons or the Bucks to win, or if it's a player prop you like, the over-under. Just let us know, and I'm sure Luke will be straight on the comments to reply to you anyway.
Correct. I live in the comments. Do you know what's better than 188 though, Tom?
I think it might be 200, mate.
200. No, 1 million. But if we could get to 200 subscribers, that would be wonderful. But we've got plenty of stuff coming on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Tom, just review your selections for us this week.
Yeah, Drake London heavy is going to be over 61.5 receiving yards at 10-11 and over 5.5 receptions at 10-11.
Did you almost die then?
Yeah, my voice is completely gone.
I'm the guy that had the voice issues. I'm going for Chris Godwin over 65.5 receiving yards, and Chris Godwin anytime at touchdown. That's 5-6 and 17-10. That's our Thursday night brief. Look forward to the Thursday night action. Enjoy the game wherever you're watching it. Make sure you subscribe to us. We'll be in touch with a horse racing video later on in the week, and also our Sunday NFL video as well. They will be both recorded tomorrow and up later in the week. Until we next get to speak to you on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast, stay safe, look after other. Goodbye.